Now, the only thing I'm really thinking about using is the palette pack that came out of this. We're not going to do a sophisticated makeup job on Josh. This is really just to kind of a brief overview. If you want to know how to do makeup, please go online. I'll throw some ones that I've kind of think are pretty good down below in our lower thirds, as it would be. This is just going to be something basic, just so we can get kind of that zombie look. This is something that whether you're a pro haunter or a yard haunter, you know, you're going to need makeup at some point. A lot of times with these makeups, like right now, we're under studio lights. They're pretty hot. And so I'm sweating. I know Josh is probably sweating. So as we're putting this on, it's going to already start to be difficult. You won't have some of those same issues. But what you will need to know is when you're designing the makeup scheme for your actors, you need to know what kind of lighting is going to be in that room or in that scene if you're making a movie or a short or something. Like some people with nighttime shots, they will go and use a blue gel to give that moonlight effect. So anytime you're going to use blue, it's not going to show up. Same thing within a haunted house. If you're using colored gels or colored lights, if you go and use that same color, you know, a red light, and then you're wanting to make your actor covered in blood, nobody's going to see it. It will literally disappear from either the camera or the eyes because it'll just blend in. So you need to think about lighting as well, and that's one of the things that we're going to touch on in future episodes as well. We are going to start with our lightest color, which is going to be our white, so we can start working with a base. And like I said, I'm going to just do a simplified makeup technique on here. By no means judge me by the quality of my makeup. I am not a makeup artist. I have learned to do makeup strictly by necessity, not really out of want. Although at one point I did really want to be a special effects artist. But it's a very skilled field that you have to get into. Now, one thing that I didn't do that you really should with your actors or, you know, whoever you're putting the makeup on is to tell them what you're doing and warn them. Like when I'm going around Josh's eyes, I should say, close your eyes, close your eyes. There. Now we're doing the white, which is basically going to be a highlight. I want to do this in a quick technique form. So I'm not going to go through and necessarily be doing everything, but when you get around the eyes, that's when you need to be very careful. And this is also when we talk about one sponge per actor. You don't want to be crossing your sponges over from one actor to another. Just say if somebody has an eye infection or some sort of skin problem, that can spread from one actor to another, and before you know it, you could have an entire cast infected, and then, you know, not only will your show suffer because everybody's out sick, but it could lead into lawsuits. So you'll want to make sure that you follow the simplest of hygiene rules when it comes to makeup effects. And buying sponges and stuff like that, it's not that costly. If it's one of those things that's going to make or break you, then maybe you should think about just getting masks and strictly dealing with masks. So we did the white, we did the green. Now I'm going to make basically kind of like a fresh zombie. So you want to start with your lighter colors and progressively go towards your darker colors. If we want some bruising, then we're going to want to do our yellows now. Because if we don't, what's going to end up happening is we're going to put a darker color on there, and then you'll never see the yellows. These are grease paints. But they are water soluble, so a little soap, a little water, and Josh will be fine with getting this all cleaned up. Now we're going to go for a little bit of blue. Went ahead and just grabbed one of these little Q-tip things in here just because I want a little bit of just dabbing. I'm kind of, when I was learning makeup, I learned it in theater. And so I learned a lot of placing it on and then manipulating it all, with my fingers. And if you just saw, that's my wife in the background. Now, Josh was really worried about what I was going to do to him, makeup-wise. He was certain that I was going to put something disgusting on him and make him look really not horrible, scary, but like horrible as in like something you would see at like a Mardi Gras parade or something. I'm going to go ahead and just throw a little bit of black on top of Josh's eyes and kind of darken out. Now, like I said, I'm trying to do like a 5-minute makeup job here, and I'll know once I get into editing all this if I really kept with a 5-minute makeup job. But once you get to a certain point, it's all about just blending the colors. I used white and then green for this area. Black is going to be my shadows, so my white and green are my highlights. The yellow and purple with some of the bruising, just to give it some depth. Now, normally what I would do is put this on the entire face and the makeup and the neck. Don't forget about the neck. I see a lot of real good makeup jobs on people's faces, but then they just totally check out when it comes to the neck. You need to continue on with the neck. It just helps sell it all. Now, because this is a grease makeup, it goes on really thick. And even as you try to thin it out, it's kind of hard. You don't, it just keeps spreading and spreading. And by the time you get it to the point where it's thin where you like it, it's still going to be thick everywhere else. So be prepared if you're using a grease makeup. You're going to need time to spread it around. I'm trying to make this somewhat decent so people don't watch this and go, that guy is an idiot. It's slowly coming together.
Right.
Throw a little more green on there. Now, with the zombies, you're talking way different kinds of zombies throughout movies and movies, TV shows, video games. It seems like everybody comes up with a different type of zombie. And one of the things is if you're doing a home haunt or a pro haunt, you want to figure out what kind of zombies you do want. If we're doing a recently deceased zombie, then that's when we're going to want to go with just what I'm trying to do here, which is taking the flesh color out and replacing it with a dead looking color. A lot of pro makeups have these already. You can buy Cadaver is the color with some of the Ben Nye makeup, and I've used that quite often. But if you're on a limited budget, then you're going to want to figure out how you can do the makeup making it look the way you want. And I would say, you know, you need to have different levels. If you're doing zombies, you need to have different levels. So you'll have a person who's been attacked and they've turned, a person who's recently deceased, one who's been deceased for a while, and then one who maybe crawled up out of the grave. So you got a lot of rotting flesh and everything. Now, if we do one where Josh has been attacked, you know, you want to rough him up a little bit. He's got some bruising over here, so thank you. Going around his eye. We'll go ahead and do a little bit what looks to be blood around the eyes, just to give some depth within that color with the white and green. And then let's say Josh is contaminated, not from another zombie, but from, say, a chemical reaction or something in the air, an airborne virus, which has turned him into a zombie. Then this is the point where you take to start kind of selling that. So with the blood around the nose can show that it's something like he inhaled, and then maybe he's bleeding from the eyes. You could also do it from the ears. And then we'll add a little bit of black around that just to help the red pop out, darken the edges, so it looks like some of the blood's been there for a little while. And then you know, it's what I usually do, whether it's been with a movie or a haunted house, is we figure out our palette as to how the characters will evolve. Like with zombies, with one of my movies, we had 4 levels of zombies, and by the time you got to the 4th level, it was strictly masked because it would have been hours of prosthetic makeup, and I really didn't want to spend hours on a whole bunch of people getting that done. Now I could spend another 15-20 minutes trying to blend everything in, but I think we're going to kind of go with this. I know in person it looks really well, and I know I didn't do the neck when I'm saying we need to do the neck, but I'm leaving it undone because I'm going to use it as an example coming up. But it's a lightweight makeup, not near as light as like the alcohol or the water-based, but still light where it can breathe as long as your person isn't allergic. And we tested to make sure Josh wasn't allergic. You're not allergic, right? Of course, trying to keep him awake is also the key factor here. Now what you would normally do is go ahead and do powder. And so with some of these colors, they may be popping out too much. When you go to powder, that'll bring them down. If they're kind of muted before you powder, then you may want to go ahead and do a little bit of touch up to pop those out, because once the powder goes on, it's going to mute. And then with the blood, in this pack comes a little vampire blood pack in it. We'll go ahead and we'll give that a sample and see what it looks like. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and send Josh on his way, and we'll see what comes of Josh.